Next, United States officials say the first step to permanently seal oil giant British Petroleum's damaged well could come as early as next week. Once the well is completely killed, the cleanup of the spilled oil will become the main focus of federal efforts in the Gulf of Mexico. Despite the magnitude of the accident, local fishermen are undeterred in seeing their way of life return to normal. VOA's Rebecca Ward reports from Louisiana.
Ask any fisherman along the Gulf of Mexico what they'd rather be doing, and the likely answer will be
fishing. That was going to be my career, was fishing.
But instead of fishing, Jason Blanchard has been hired by the U.S. Coast Guard to escort the media around the oil-stained marshes off the Louisiana coast. He and scores of other fishermen now work directly or indirectly for BP, the energy company blamed for the worst oil spill in U.S. history. Randall Acevedo is a fifth-generation oysterman in Louisiana's Delacroix Island.
I've been an oyster fisherman my whole life until the oil spill. My dad was a fisherman, oyster fisherman. My grandpa fished his whole life. His daddy was a fisherman. That's before the ship channel was even dug. They lived without electricity. And his daddy, it's my great-great-grandfather, was from the Canary Islands.
Randall desires nothing more than to get back to fishing the once oyster-rich marshes that make up the Louisiana coastline.
We can't even go out there to bed any oysters. You can't even put your dredges in the water.
So for now, he's working for BP in St. Bernard Parish, about 100 kilometers from the spill. Like other coastal parishes, oil from a leaking pipe of a deepwater oil platform has worked its way into St. Bernard's fishing waters.
We've made some strides in containing the oil, certainly, and in cleaning up the oil, certainly. We have a long way to go. I think the ramifications of this spill actually won't be seen for quite some time.
Cindy Brown is the director of the Gulf of Mexico program for the Nature Conservancy.
Well, unfortunately, this oil spill happened at a time of year. It couldn't have been a worse time of year. There were many species of fish that were spawning. You know, our birds were hatching. So I would say life in the Gulf was at its most vulnerable state when the oil spill happened. So, you know, we're very concerned about those species. In essence, in some cases, we will have lost, you know, an entire year of productivity.
Cruising off the coast of Louisiana from the exotically named town of Cocodrie in Terrebonne Parish, the damage to the marshes is apparent. Cruise and fishing boats, as well as Coast Guard vessels, are busy setting absorbent booms around the sensitive marsh areas. Some are even mopping up the oil that has crept into the tall grasses.
The strategy for cleaning up the spill is to fight it offshore. And then if that doesn't work and it starts to come towards land, use the boom defensively so that it directs the oil to the beaches and they can clean it off the beaches. And do whatever we can to protect the marshlands, because that's the most difficult area for us to clean off.
But even if the cap on the oil spill holds for good, it could be years before the environmental and economic damage is corrected. Raymond Skipper Mellerine pulls in crabs from the still unaffected areas off Delacroix Island.
My wife has a seafood market in the Westwego shrimp lot over there, and they just about, all of them just about shut down. I keep going. She sells my crabs out there. I managed to make a little extra money by doing that, but, you know, overall, the shrimping and everything is so hard to get. We can't get no shrimp right now, Louisiana shrimp.
You don't get the sale like you're supposed to. You know, you've been getting sale, they're scared about the seafood. You know, they're not going to eat like they normally do. So you can't sell nowhere near what you normally sell since that happened.
Skipper says fishermen in the area, along with BP and local officials, are doing all they can to clean up the Gulf. And he remains hopeful about the near future, if that is, and there are a lot of ifs.
I think everybody will be back to work next year if we don't get a hurricane, if we don't get, you know, some kind of contamination of the seafood from the dispersions. That's everything that's probably happening right now, the testing of the seafood. So far, they say they have no problems with it. So I would say, hey, it's not my call, it's theirs, but everything around here looks good. This is God's country, Delacroix Island.
A recent Coast Guard report estimates about 5 million barrels of oil spilled out into the Gulf of Mexico from the deepwater rig. About half that amount has evaporated or biodegraded. More than 1 million barrels of oil has been burned or collected, but that still leaves over 250 million liters of oil in the water. I'm VOA's Rebecca Ward for Going Green.